Um, so my name is Raphael Adebiyi. I'm a managing director of a few organizations. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I run an oil service company here in the UK called TESINC. Our office is here in Aberdeen, and I'm talking from Aberdeen. We also have Turbo Energy Solutions, which is the local company in Nigeria. I sit on the board of a few fintech organizations within the agricultural space, organizations within property and construction space. But here in the UK and in Nigeria, I'm a chairman of a board of a school, a local school in England called Loughton School. I'm a chairman of the board of governors. So that's a summary of who I am. I've literally, done business most of my life. So I have experience, talking from anything, literally from anything between politics to engineering, to economics, to accounting. So that's the thing with entrepreneur, you get to pick up a lot of things along the line. And in all of this, it's important that you focus on innovation and development, because for every individual, whether you're an organization, you're an individual, you're a nation, innovation and development remains the key to helping you achieve your goals. And I'll give an easy example. Everybody has talked about, what they studied. They've talked about, what they're looking to achieve, but you need to focus on innovation, because you want to become somebody working in the United Nations, you need to innovate. You need to understand exactly what to do. Now, just because somebody did it this way does not necessarily mean it will work for you that way. And that's the essence of innovation, is to understand what works for you as a person. If you understand what works for you as a person, then it's easy to, apply the knowledge you have to get and achieve what you're looking to achieve. If you don't understand what works for you as a person and you follow somebody else's template, it usually does not work. And this happens usually in Africa. You see a lot of, technological innovation being brought to Africa, but the indices for such technology, it can't just work for Africa. There's been, even for people who are economists, there's been, a lot of policies thrown out there. You take those policies to Nigeria and it's a struggle, because, your average Nigerian is not your average British. The pressures of life of your average British is not the same pressure for a Nigerian. And it's in the little things. In the UK, you want to travel from Aberdeen to London and you are thinking you want to just do a drive. Nobody remembers to say, oh, safe journey. You just jump in the car and drive off, because it is assumed you would arrive at your destination. Whereas in a country like Nigeria, people would pray with you. You go to parks, you see pastors in the parks. So you need to understand the dynamics of your locality before you can innovate. And next slide, Gary, please. Now, innovation and development specialty. So what we're looking to do today is this specialty aims to enable learners to identify and engage in translating information, science, and technology into innovation to grow and develop sustainable African societies. and competitive economies. And from my own standpoint, for Africa to succeed, we need to run an innovation economy. We need to figure out what our best sales, what do we believe we can do better than everyone else? Or sometimes it may not necessarily be what we can do better. It may be something other people have done or they are doing. And then we look at our own circumstances and say, you know what, maybe we can do it differently and it can be more effective and more efficient. Or maybe as a nation, we have a particular set of skills that is different, that is not available in the West, and then we can put our own spin on it to get the best out of it. Now, this is meant to introduce learners to the value of institutionalizing innovation through mobilizing human capital, including grassroots ingenuity and disruptive technologies. As far as I'm concerned, there's been a lot of argument as regards to people doing innovation in pockets. And there is an argument that innovation needs to be the driving force within various institutions in Africa. And not until we're able to do that from grassroots level to the national level, we usually may not be able to achieve our goals when it comes to innovation and development for Africa. The other thing we will try to look at is what's happening in terms of policy, what's happening in terms of strategic direction, and hopefully we can focus a lot on digitalization and decision making within governance for Africa. Next slide, please. What's our learning outcomes? The learning outcomes for us here, it's easy and straight to the point. We want to look, so the learning outcome, what we believe you get out of this is that this should help you to understand that data is king, and that whatever we do in Africa, for us to start to scratch the surface, we need to find ways to handle our data better. We need, not until we're able to deal with that, we can't really digitalize anything. It's difficult. We will continue to work in silos. And for us to achieve innovation and development in Africa, everyone needs to come on board. Everyone needs to work together. The other learning outcome is to understand the science, the workings and the rules of information. So your data, what would you do with it? How would you help you as a society in Africa? The other learning outcome we're looking at is to appraise the concept of management, visualization, and communication of ideas. You sit in a room with 10 African people, and by the time you're done 30 minutes, you will see a lot of ideas flying all around on topical issues. But what exactly do we do with these ideas? We have those ideas. How does it fit into the data? We don't even have that data in most places. I'm aware that a few African countries are, seriously trying to put in place data that helps drive in decision making. Kenya is seriously working on that. A few other African countries are seriously working on that, and Rwanda is trying to do that as well. The other thing is, learning outcome for us is we need to understand that innovation and development needs to be within the institution. Every institution needs to understand that innovation and development is our core. It needs to drive what we do. As Nigerians, we need to take that in and move on with various challenges that we see while providing innovative solutions to those challenges. The last one is to deploy tools, with education. And that's why we're here. We're trying to learn, try to understand, what's going on out there. Next slides, please. At this point in time, what we're talking about here is we're saying what's the mode of delivery? Our mode of delivery at the moment is, just webinar based, online, but we also believe that we want to innovate as an organization. We want a situation where we're also able to offer this training, deliver this training using virtual reality, using innovative ways of making people understand the topic better. So even Song.africa would look at doing that. And we're currently exploring that in the background as to how best to deliver this in a way that is more fun, where people can get better engagement. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we want to try and dive in real quick. Definition of terminology, modes of innovation and development in the African context. So if we look at Africa, you would understand that primarily within Africa, everybody's story is the same. Is the story of poverty, poor education, hunger, violence, ill-health, food security. In fact, food security, from my understanding, is going to get worse. Access to capital or finance, low rate of economic growth. These are the things that sort of summarizes Africa. Now, the question is, we understand what the problems are. How exactly are we able to provide a solution? And our argument is innovation and development is the key to unlocking the solutions to that narrative. This is a problem as Africa mostly experiences non-existence of cooperation amongst key players. What does this mean? We're saying that one of the biggest challenges in Africa is we are not even able to fully identify who the stakeholders are concerning various issues. And we would try to do some sort of scenario play to see if we're fully able to identify stakeholders. If you don't identify your stakeholders, it is difficult to achieve a project. So now let's try to break this down a little bit in a way where we understand. A lot of us have gone through the school process. Now, imagine going to, you get admission, and then you decide, oh, I don't like this lecturer, he's mean, and you decide you don't want to go to the lecturer's class. Now, if you don't go to that lecturer's class, it means you've said you don't want to engage that lecturer. How do you intend to pass? You can't. You cannot pass, because if there are tests in the class, you won't be able to sit for that test. It means that you don't see that lecturer as a stakeholder towards you achieving your degree. So people who are stakeholders on your journey to whatever you're looking to achieve, you need to be able to identify them. They may be difficult, but it still does not change the fact that they are your stakeholders, and you need to find a way to work with them to ensure you're able to achieve what you're looking to achieve. Sometimes people will say, oh, the Nigerian government is bad, leave them. But if you don't engage, you get nothing. There's been arguments in the news, people saying, oh, don't bother to get PVC, your vote does not count. But if you are looking to achieve success in that area, you should mobilize yourself to get your PVC and vote. Without doing that, then you achieve nothing. Okay, now, the other thing we want to look at is we're saying transfer of technology to Africa. It's key that we understand that those technologies are technologies that are literally set up in the West. They've looked at a lot of factors affecting them in the West, and they've taken that into consideration in building something that works for them. Implementing that same technology in Africa may not necessarily be, may not necessarily work. An easy example is space Internet of Things, space IoT. With space IoT, you'll realize that in Africa, it's a lot more difficult because, one, with remote locations, you don't even have power. In remote locations, you don't even have 3G, so what you call 3G signal. So let's even forget 5G. If you don't have 3G signal, then it's difficult. It then means that your alternative in a lot of places in Africa would be to connect to satellites rather than 3G. So it's important that for innovation to succeed in Africa, we need to understand adaptation of technologies. And we need to understand that by adapting this technology, we are getting the best out of what has been passed on to us. Now, a lot of countries have recognized that innovation is not just about high technology products, and that innovation capacity must be built early in the development process in order to possess learning capacity that will allow catch up. Yes, in Africa, we're doing catch up, but what we're saying is we need to stop playing catch up. We need to start to go right in front of what the problem is and providing our own innovative solution. Now, the story of innovation encompasses literally two elements. One, increasing the productivity of economy at its current stage. So the stage at which we are, whether you're in Nigeria, you're in Angola, the first thing to do is how do we increase productivity? Secondly, you can then focus on structurally transforming that economy. But it is important that we are able to increase productivity first before we try to structurally transform the economy. And it has to be in that order. If you try to structurally transform the economy without increasing productivity, then we probably would miss the point. Now, let's look at so before we look at definitions, I want to ask, let me see, Elizabeth, what's your understanding of innovation?
My idea of innovation is thinking of like doing things in a smart way, doing things smartly in a different and unique way.
In a different and unique way. So let's write that down. So Elizabeth, doing things in a smart way. There's no right or wrong answer, please. So feel free to express yourself. It is in a smart way. Okay. Ruth, are you able to give us your definition for innovation?
I think she's still on transit.
Okay, all right. Precious, are you able to give us your definition on innovation? What do you understand innovation to mean? It doesn't have to be a definition, just your understanding of what innovation means.
So I think innovation basically means when you do things in a manner which is unique and different from whatever your other person is doing. It basically means generating new ideas and new concepts that you can use to better a particular situation. Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay. Dari.
Okay. So innovation is, I feel it means bringing new ideas or improving on an existing idea, then bringing out new suggestions from your end, or how things can be done in a better way or easier way in most cases.
Okay. From your definition, we all have some semblance of what innovation is. Gary, please, can you go to the slides of the definition? Okay. Innovation, the way we see innovation is the process of creating. So you create, it means you need to create something, and putting into use combinations of knowledge from different or multiple sources to create development impact. Commercialization of invention, we refer to that too as innovation. So easy, everybody has defined this, but the key to innovation is that you need to create something. It does not necessarily have to be brand new, but what you've created would be something that you have used a combination of various knowledge from different or multiple sources to create. So if we look at that, we would understand that for innovation to happen, it means that there needs to be a strong research and development involved. From that definition, I want to ask everybody in this room, do we have a lot of strong research and development activity going on in our local environment? And I need everybody to give a response to that. Dari, you're next. Do you see strong research and development going on around you?
From my end, sir, no, sir, at all. Like at all. I've not seen in a while now.
Okay, Precious.
So,
Do you see strong research and development going on around you?
no, I don't.
Elizabeth, you're based in my state, in Ado. Do you see a lot of R&D activities going on around you?
No, not really. But actually in Ogun State,
Okay.
or in the hospital, in the hospital sense, I feel there's actually research. They do a lot of research there, in medicine line. But apart from medicine, no.
Okay, apart from medicine, no. Okay. Okay, we're told Ruth is still in transit. Now, if we don't have a lot of research and development going on, that tells you that it'll be difficult for us as a nation to innovate. Is that not what it means? So, African, we need to go back and think about what our problems are, and we need to put together strong research and development that can help provide a solution to our problems. No one will fix our problems for us. Best believe it. The best the West can do for us is sending us policies and procedures they believe will fit for us, or technology they believe will fit for us. But we need to understand ourselves first, understand our own uniqueness as a nation, understand our struggles. And when we do that, it's a lot easier to put things into proper perspective. Research creates knowledge and technology. The process of innovation goes further to include putting that knowledge into use. So there needs to be strong research. And then when you understand what you're doing on that research, or you've achieved the purpose of that research, you need to put it into use. Innovating involves multiple actors working together as elements of the same system. And I've seen this at play severally. When the West agree on something, you would realize that they don't usually do this all alone by themselves. They try to pull in multiple actors into the room to agree with them, and that way they're able to have better impact. And an easy example was COP26. COP26 that happened in Glasgow towards the end of last year was focused on reducing emission globally. And as part of that, what was done, they put together events like that to bring in major stakeholders globally to discuss how to reduce emissions. Not just to discuss how to reduce emissions, but to make nations commit to reducing emissions at a particular time. Nigeria, our president announced that Nigeria will achieve net zero, for example, by, I think he said 2050. But the question is, that is a commitment. What exactly is Nigeria doing? What exactly is Nigeria doing to achieve that? I'm sure a lot of people in Nigeria they don't even know what's going on within that space. Now, if our people don't know, how will they be able to help provide that solution? So for us, we believe that it is key for the people, the stakeholders, to understand what the drive is. It's important for all the stakeholders to be on the same page, and that way we can achieve innovation. Next slide, please. So typical starting points for innovation. And this is why we say that a lot of times it's the private sector that drives innovation. Most of the governments in Africa seem to just want to carry on with just the norm. And that's why the private sector is right at the forefront of this. So you see entrepreneurs, they identify an opportunity or a threat. And what happens? They form alliances, they form partnerships to access new ideas, resources, or markets, and learn from each other. They configure the patterns of alliances when opportunities or threats changes. And then a process, self-organization of different players to access and put knowledge into use. And then learning by doing helps build the capacity for self-organization. So what we're saying is, typically somebody sees a problem, who is an entrepreneur, they think about how to solve that problem. They bring in as much stakeholders as they understand into the mix that can help to provide that solution. There's a lot of rejigging of things as clarity comes. Most times when people seek to start to innovate, you'll notice that the initial plan sometimes changes because there are factors that they didn't think about initially that would come into play. And the strategy towards achieving the initial goal may change, but they are still able to achieve innovation by ensuring that they are involved in the right sort of alliances, in the right sort of partnership. The stakeholders are brought, together, and everybody understands the purpose and what's going on. Now, before I move on to the next slide, I would want us to do something real quickly. Let me see the number of people in here now. So we have Precious, we have, okay. So I think we should just do one question. Everybody can do one question. So there's a question for us. I want you to write this down and we need to talk about it just now. So it will be a discussion for everybody. And that question is, identify innovation challenges and solutions for Nigeria's data gathering effort for its citizens. So let me post this on the chat. And we need to discuss this quickly over the next 10 minutes. So Nigeria as a nation, we've talked about the fact that innovation, it's important that we have our data. What are the challenges towards that data gathering? So what are the challenges towards that data gathering for Nigeria? How can Nigeria better gather data of its citizens? And if you look at Nigeria, our census, nobody seems to fully understand what the number is in terms of what our population is. The government have come to say, oh, everybody that owns a bank account must have BVN. People run around, do BVN. They come back, oh, you need to vote. You need to go and register to vote. Oh, people run around, vote. Oh, you need to get national, a number, national identity number. Oh, people run around for that. Are there better ways to help Nigeria gather data that can help innovation? So that's what we want to discuss. So who's going first? So this is a problem right now in the country, and I want us to talk about providing a solution for it in an innovative way. Should I start to call names? Gary, do you want to help them and give them your thoughts? Is Gary still on the call?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. All right. So I think majority of the most of the challenges basically is proximity to assessing these platforms. Now, I was trying to register for my PVC a couple of months back, and I saw that the data available for physical verification were spread across a month from when I applied for it, and not all locations in the state, in 36 states, had available days on that 1 month difference. And I said to myself, how possible is it that they have physical centers, but I still can't get the physical center around me? I had to travel from Abuja to Delta to meet up with the closest physical verification date. And that's a big challenge, because if we're not serious about voting initially, this challenge already puts you down. And you go back to saying and agonizing that your votes don't count and all that. Now, going forward, and I feel that data capturing is something that private parastatals do easily. And like take for example, fintech companies, for example, they can give you their data mapping for like quarterly and annually, as to how many people have signed up to their platforms, and it's quite easy because these days, if you want to take, for example, register with your PiggyVest, you don't have to go to no physical locations. You can do your KYC, you can do your registration, everything online, and it's easy in a matter of minutes. And I feel going forward, if we want to capture data properly, we'd have to consult majority of this private parcel. We have the individuals, but I feel like they're all sitting on the bicycle. Now, for data capturing, what the world is going digital, and I feel we should go digital with it as well. So I feel like going forward, in order for us to solve this, the particular problem now is the time frame, basically, and accessibility. Because, like I said, I give an example of the PVC. Most people can't do their PVC in a matter of months, because you could do it to registration. Okay, now they have brought the registration online, but it's not going to stay complete. You still have to do a physical verification. So how do we eliminate that? We digitalize everything. Capturing people's passports and their identity number, even their thumbprints, their biometrics can be done online. We do it for banks. Why can't we do it for polling systems? So I feel that's something they should try and imbibe, taking everything digital. If everything is digital, almost everyone can access it.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I want to try and summarize what you've said. What you've said is, in terms of data gathering for the country, one of the biggest challenges you see is accessibility. You believe convenience is a major issue, and you believe that a solution to all of that would be to gather data digitally. I believe that's I captured exactly what you said.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think there's a comment in the chat. Ruth says checks and balances towards the body responsible. Ruth, sometimes, for example, in a country like Nigeria, you find out that the data you're even trying to capture, there may be 3 or 4 different organizations, government organizations, that are telling you they are the ones to do the capture for that data. So sometimes you see an overlap of things going on. So it's difficult to then know who is doing what. Data checks at accuracy level on systems to help boost accuracy and quality in data captured. Professionals involved should be vetted. Okay. So what Ruth is saying is we need to check this data. We need to check how accurate the data are. And at the same time, we need to vet the people involved in data capture. Now, this brings me to another question. Do we even have a process for vetting people in, for example, in most places in Africa? Do we have a system where people understand that once you're vetted on this, by this organization or by this system, that vetting process is thorough and touch wood, it works? So let's see. Roots, okay. From innovation point of view, to get better, there's a need to see what has not been working, what systems are being used. Nigeria is very similar to what's going on in Angola. Okay. All right. Thanks, Ruth, for that contribution. Who else wants to go ahead? So Adebiyi, Dare, do you want to tell us what you think the solution should be?
I would just like to start from the top, from the first question you asked, if I'm permitted to. Can I go on?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So still based on the electoral process, yeah.
Mhm.
Last year, last year we were made to apply for those out there to help out during the elections that happened in Abuja this year, in February, to be precise. And then we had whole lot of people registering for that course, like to be part of the ad hoc staff for that day. And then we had the training in early February. But when the time came for the elections, we realized that out of like over 800 people that are registered under the center I was, less than 100 were picked. And now you see, on the day of the election, we had so many centers that we didn't have enough staffs at hand. And the reason being because, Nigeria is a country full of corruption, yeah? So
please, Dari, I want you to please refrain from
my apologies. My
yeah,
apologies.
refrain from using that, and I would explain why.
Okay.
The reason is this: believe it or not, there is bigger corruptions going on in the West than Nigeria.
Okay.
And a lot of times we see the things going on in our country and we label our own country. If you see the things going on in the US, I don't believe there's any country in the world that is as corrupt as that nation. But that's a different
okay.
So as much as possible, we need to, when we're defining corruption, if you look at the cases of corruption in the US, for example, and compare side by side with that of Nigeria, you see that in terms of volume, the US is on different level. The statistics, it's a lot greater than Nigeria. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. My apologies for that then. But okay, I'll just.
I understand your point. I understand your point, what you're trying to get at. Please go ahead.
So we had a lot of people that were not picked, and then on that day you see some people coming with family members that were not in the training, and these guys have no idea what to do on the day. Sorry?
Really? They had no idea what to do?
Yes. So you see, outside, and now the devices that were given for the job were failing because I feel the reason the Android system operating, like the Android operating system for the devices, and they were so archaic, like the Android 4.0, when presently we're like the version 12 of the Android version. So the devices were failing, biometrics were failing. Even they used beavers that had can you either your thumbprint or your facial verification, but neither was working for most people. And so you see that from my end, I feel the solution is I feel they are not willing to step forward and just bring in those private tech companies that know what to do. You see some people taking up the contracts and then failing to provide solutions, because this has been the issue we've been having in our elections for years coming, and still no solution. And technology is advancing by the day, but we seem to be left behind because they're not willing to take initiative and then just allow those that know what they can do it. They rather just keep it within themselves and make profit of it. So that's it for my answer.
Okay, so if I hear you correctly, you're saying that the process for even conducting election is flawed, and you think that process just cannot help us achieve anything, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for that contribution. Precious, do you want to share with us your own insights?
So I'm not very vast in this topic, so I'm not very sure what to say.
So Precious, all we're saying is Nigeria needs to gather data. For us to innovate, we need to understand who we are. How many people live in Nigeria? Do we have that understanding? No, we don't. For example, people say, okay, we need to vote. People should register. That process, voters registration process, can it be better? People need to do national identification registration. Can that process be better? Can it be more accessible? So do you have any comments on that? That's all we're talking about.
Okay, well, I feel like all of this gathering data and data analysis and the rest, it really all just boils down to education first of all. And I feel like Nigeria is a country where we still have a long way to go in the educational sector. First off, how are these data analysts or these remuneration agents, do they have enough do they have the qualification? Plus we live in a country where like the vast majority are uneducated, so they care less for some of these processes. So I feel like if there is a if we take it up a notch in the educational sector, that factor impedes a lot of things. So if you could take it up a notch, it could help.
Okay, thank you for your comment, Precious. I believe your comment is, I'm going to write that down. You said education is the key to helping us achieve better within this stage. Okay. All right. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. In fact, I believe that if we sit in a room, there'll be better engagement where we're able to look at solutions. Now, one of the easiest things, and Gary picked this up to say digital, but even with digital, the question is, you still have people who would implement this digital process. Do they have the right training? Do they understand what to do? If they understand what to do, who deals with the quality of the data gathered? Do we have technology in place that can sort of look at that data and, process it for us in a way that it makes sense? So those are some of the things we need to look at. And as a nation, I genuinely believe that if we're serious about gathering data in Nigeria, we need to find ways of people sitting where they are, using their mobile phones to provide that data. That's the most convenient way. So I'll give you an easy example. In the UK, if I want to, let's say I want to engage with a particular organization, they will say that, okay, you can use Experian, a company, to do what is called identity check. Just by entering my details, my name, date of birth, my nationality, my house address for the last 3 years, they are able to verify who I am. I don't even think we have data on where people have stayed for the last 2 months or 3 months. So you would realize that for us to be able to get to where we want to be, there's a lot of data gathering that needs to happen. And without those data gathering happening, we really would struggle to innovate properly. There needs to be a lot of education going on where people fully understand how to innovate, what to do with that innovation. If you innovate and you don't understand how to use it, then there is really no point. Do we agree?
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. So I think for me, the critical thing I wanted us to agree on is what are the problems and how can we solve this problem? We've said to solve this problem is we need to find a way to go digital. Two, we need to find a way to train and better engage stakeholders on what to do, how to do it, and how to implement it. So that's our own solution. Will it work? It can work if all the stakeholders are on the same page as to achieving this. So Gary, you want to take a note on that solution for next time or for the next class. Please, next slide, please.
All right.
Next slide. Okay, now we are saying what prevents innovation in Africa? Because Africa is where we've come from. One, we said lack of self-organization by the key actors is the main impediment to innovation. Now, in a way, we've talked about this to say that a lot of times the key stakeholders are not brought together into the same room. I remember I said we're going to try and identify stakeholders. Can we do that real quick? Back to the same scenario. We're talking about elections now. For election, can we identify all the stakeholders for an election? If we're able to identify them, then maybe we can start to understand how to provide a solution for all the problems we are having with our election system in Africa. So who wants to go first to identify the stakeholders?
We have the INEC staffs, like those that are full-time staffs of the INEC, that's the Electoral Commission.
Okay.
Then we have the ad hoc staffs, those that are the peak along before the electoral process. Then we have the security officials. Basically, that's it before and during the elections.
Okay. So if I ask you a question, do you think healthcare workers can be a stakeholder in an election?
They could, because casualties could come up. No, it's election, and in Nigeria, in some cases, in some areas, there's sometimes where things come up, like some I don't know, banters between parties, and then final fights comes up, and then there's injuries. So that they play a part. Yes, that's true, but it's not something that we have made available during the electoral process. I'll give an instance, like when we're giving the training, the woman that taught us said, when things like that begin to happen, just pick your bag and run. So there's no. Yeah. So that was the advice she gave. We should just take our things and run. So I've not seen any health worker in the space for election, but it would have been a good input.
Okay. So the reason why I'm asking is, like I keep saying, if we don't fully identify stakeholders, we can achieve success. So Dari, thank you for those stakeholders. Does anybody want to identify other stakeholders to the election? It's time to think outside of the box. Not just, so stakeholders are not just what the government has said, or it is, but you need to really think about an election process and say, who is affected, who is part of who is part of this election? Have we talked about transport workers? Because you have drivers moving stuff all around. You would have INEC using chartered planes to take stuffs all around. Can we add them as stakeholders? I think Ruth just responded saying, what about the watchdogs? Within an election system, we really, for Nigeria, really don't have a watchdog over the election process as such. INEC is like the alpha and the omega of Nigeria election. So there's nobody as such that INEC has to report to. The only thing that happens would be going to the courts, to the judiciary. So as part of election process, do we see the judiciary, for example, as a stakeholder? So does anybody?
To add to it, yeah, about what she said about the watchdogs,
Yes.
there's supposed to be provisions for international observers. Yeah, those guys, they just come around and they just observe and give their reports at the international level. But well, as I said, from what I had experienced, although that was my first time, there were no international observers, just the party agents and the people voting, and then the electoral officers. That's all.
Okay. So your international observers are also stakeholders.
They are, sir. Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is to get us to think about everybody affected by an election. When we are able to think about that, then it's easy to understand who the stakeholders are and finding ways to bring everybody into one room. If you're able to do that, then it's easier, and all of you are on the same page, then it's easier to achieve success with innovation. And it's at that stage, everybody can say, okay, this is what our problem is as international observer. Are we able to get a solution to that problem? The transport workers, people who move, will tell you what their problem is. And then based on that problem, you can say, okay, maybe this is the solution to your problem. And that's how we can, from bottom up, grow Africa, bringing stakeholders together, understanding what their role is, and making them understand that, yes, we understand that you play an important role, but we also need to find a way to provide a solution for your problems. So thank you everyone for the various comments. So moving on, we said, so we're saying that key actors, they usually don't come together, and this is one of the biggest problems with innovation in Africa. And this in turn is attributed to high risk, weak incentives, highly dynamic context, existing institutional arrangement discourage self-organization, mistrust by potential actors, isolation by key players. And that goes without saying. If you don't understand who your stakeholders are, then you would definitely isolate some of them. Weakness and lack of organization by potential key players, e.g. private sector. The private sector plays a key role, and if you don't mobilize the private sector well, you see some companies will take a position and say, listen, all our staffs must register to vote as a civic responsibility. If you're able to do that, so you break down and say, who are the biggest employer in the country? Can we work with you to ensure that we're able to come to you, register your people? If your people having various challenges, we can look at helping them solve it to make sure that they are able to get involved in the electoral process. Next slide, please. So just as people have different learning styles, there are different modes of innovation that can take place within a local community, organization, country, or region. And these modes of innovation help identify strengths and weaknesses in innovation management. Commonly, we refer to two modes of innovation. One, science, technology, and innovation, which we call STI, and doing, using, and interacting, which is DUI. These two modes of innovation refer to different forms of knowledge. Next slide, please. And the forms of knowledge are: one, know what. Know what is basic, like you need, it's a basic understanding of what it is. So for example, we know that, okay, the basic understanding is we know that if we water a tree, it makes it grow. That is know what. Know why is, why does it grow? Why does the tree grow if you water a tree? Then you can say, oh, there's a chemical reaction that causes water to make a tree grow. Then you understand why what you're doing will make a tree grow. The next thing is know how. The know-how is understanding exactly the specific way at a specific time to help the tree grow. So based on knowing how, you're able to say, oh, it's better to water these plants in the evening. Or you can say, oh, it's better to water it at, early in the morning, and because of XYZ, this is the best course of action to make this tree grow. Know who, personal relationship with others. So your knowledge acquired through a community or social skills of how to utilize or interact with community. So a network of knowledgeable tree growers that exchange tips to help each other grow better trees. And that is why people say it's good to network. You gather people into the room, they're able to share ideas, they're able to share knowledge as to how they are able to grow the trees better. And these are the modes of innovation. So important aspects of know what and know why may be obtained through reading books, attending lectures, and accessing databases. The two other categories are more of practical experience, and that is, getting to understand what people are doing within your space and learning from each other. Next slides, please. Important aspects of know what and know why may be up. Okay, we've gone past that. So next slide, please. Okay, so STI, we've talked about STI, DUI, we've said, STI focuses more on the scientific knowledge. It focuses on the know why and the know what. Whereas DUI focuses more on experience, so the experiential knowledge, so know how and know who. Some people will say learn by doing. So it means that you can either innovate by learning through research and development learning, and you can innovate also by doing. So as you do what you're doing over and over again, you're meant to learn how best to do the task. And it's simple. For example, it's simple task. I remember the very first time I moved to the UK, and I was using a Hoover, and I was looking at that Hoover. I think it was an Henry Hoover, and I was like, oh, this is really good, really good. And a few months after, some British guy, Dyson, came along and introduced different sort of Hoover. Nothing has changed. All he has done is based on the way people have been using Uber. He decided, you know what, there should be a better way to create Ubers where they can go around the corners. It's usually difficult for people to get Ubers to go around the corners. It's usually difficult for people to roll those Ubers. And what did Dyson do? Dyson created Ubers that are sleek and easy to go along the corners. And that's an innovation. But before getting to that innovation, is seeing things done over and over again in a particular way. He understands what the problem is in the way it's being done, and is provided a solution on how to do it better. And that's how we learn. Next slide, please. So when you combine DUI and STI, that's the best structure for innovation. The best structure for innovation remains putting both your knowledge base and your experience base together. And for a lot of people, there's an argument that for you to achieve good innovation, you need to bring in the academic, and you need to bring in the industry people. And when you have a combination of both industry and academic, you should achieve great innovation because you would have different insight as to how things work. 1 second. Okay, okay, Ruth says the mode of innovation principle are really an eye-opener. Okay, thank you, Ruth, for that. Next slide, please. There's a video. I think, Gary, you would please, I think you're going to share these slides, correct? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Gary?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you share the slides, I don't want us to watch the YouTube video, but there's a video in there that just tells you that organizations, you know, at various levels, whether a big organization or a small organization, they always try to look for better ways to innovate. So when they share the slides with you, you can watch that video. So we don't take so much of our time. Next slide, please. Thank you. So innovation and development in the African context. Africa, as we know, is undergoing a profound transformation that is changing the lives of hundreds of millions of people on the continent. There's rapid urbanization. There are fewer people staying in the villages. People are seriously trying to move into the cities. It's not just that, it's even getting worse because right now, I don't think I've probably lived in the UK. I've lived in the UK since 2006, and the number of Nigerians I've seen come into the UK within the last 1 year, I've not seen such numbers before. So it tells me that a lot of the youths in the country are leaving. Most of the people I get to see are people between the ages of 45 and about 21, 22. So that's like the productive
Class.
Class for any nation. If you're losing that to other nations, then it may be difficult to innovate. It may be difficult to innovate, but that's some of our problems. And this, a lot of these problems, we need to understand that it's important we develop our own way of solving this problem, whether through technological development, through digitalization. There are always various ways to solve this problem. But it also takes a government that understands that there's a problem and intends to solve that problem. Because as far as I'm concerned, all I've heard in the news is ministers saying, oh, Nigerians should not go abroad to study. They shouldn't go abroad to look for better life. That has never been a solution. If a country is in a good state, I bet a lot of people will prefer to stay in Nigeria. And there are the things people come to the UK for are just basic things to keep everybody living in a decent way with dignity. There's no reason why people should go and queue under the sun just to register to vote, for example. There is absolutely no reason. I've only voted once in the UK by going to a polling booth to vote. I always vote by post. So I don't need to go anywhere. The forms are sent to me in my house. I fill the form and I post it back. I voted. That's it. So we need to start to think about making life easy for ourselves. If we don't get that, then it'll be a struggle to innovate. A typical example would be if you have BVN registered with your bank account, it means that that's all your biometrics taken. A central organization in Nigeria should be able to pull the BVN records and use those BVN records to create identity cards. They can use that same BVN records to create voters registration card. Because if you have all the BVN records, there's nothing more you need. But it seems like, just as we know, a lot of people just cannot figure out how best to do this without creating multiple organizations to do the same thing over and over again and make money for themselves by doing those processes over and over again. But, those processes makes lives of hundreds of millions of people difficult. So what we're saying is innovation and development should help make life better for everybody if we are ready to go the long way in Africa. Next slide, please. In Africa, it is important to acknowledge different knowledge bases and development needs in the context of developing innovations. Innovation development is a social process that can be supported with adequate policy. So what we're saying is it needs to grow organically. It needs to start from the bottom up. It's difficult to achieve innovation when it's coming just from the top. You need to get people to buy into what you're doing from the grassroots level upwards. I remember growing up when IBB was in power, every young person at the time understood that the IBB government, they were doing programs called MANSA. They were doing programs called Be Free to touch lives. Like as young in your primary school, they will tell you what MANSA was doing. They'll tell you what Be Free was doing. you'll see all the houses they're building. So in that way, you're able to connect with the government to say, okay, this is exactly what this government is doing. And I feel that there's not been a lot of connection between the average man on the streets and governments on different policies, on different lines. And this is one of the biggest things that have created the biggest gap between the ruling class and the citizens. Now, to achieve more sustainable societies in Africa, the focus must be on inclusive innovations, transformative innovation policies. Inclusive innovations contain implementation of novel ideas to create opportunities for economic and social well-being of the poor. Please note that, and help in tackling societal grand challenges. Innovation must remember to take care of the poorest of the poorest in the society and help to make their life easy. Innovation is a new and essentially improved product, process, market, raw material, organizational arrangement. New inventions emerge every day, but an invention becomes an innovation only if it is implemented and applied successfully in the market or society. And I think I've talked about this previously to say, you know what, if you have a new invention today and you are unable to implement it, or you can't do anything with it, it's not an innovation because it helps nobody. Next slide, please. So this chart is just to show you the best way for some models for innovation, where you see governments sitting there, you see the parliament, you see ministries, you see the private sector, you see even multinational corporations, civil society, and you see that they all mix co-creation hubs, living labs, primary and secondary education. You see that they all mix. This is all the stakeholders involved. And if you don't identify the stakeholders in this way, you still would not be able to achieve innovation properly. So if you look at what you see right in front of you, you need all of these people to connect, typically on any issue, before you can achieve innovation, great innovation within that space. Yes, for private sector, there are a lot of individual brilliance in the private sector, but if everybody is fully involved and carried along, there may probably be better impact within the country. Next slide, please. African countries, regions, and institutions still follow the resource-dependent and commodity-driven development pathways. And what are we trying to say? We're saying typical African countries, we still just rely on just our resources or commodity, and we put that at the forefront of the things we do. You see Nigeria's budgets in a year, the key focus there is, we're going to sell crude. Can we use a particular amount to benchmark? And sometimes they say, it's $40. And typically the way it works is they calculate based on, I think the last budget, it was based on 1.8 million barrels production per day. I can tell you for free that Nigeria is currently not doing 1.8 million barrels per day. Now, if Nigeria is not producing at such level, it means that as a nation, you definitely will be in a budget deficit. Nigeria is the only country where oil production is being lost in this manner and the nation still exists. Any nation where oil production is being lost at the level we see oil production being lost in Nigeria, those nations will probably literally cease to exist. But we still don't understand there's a problem. my hope and prayer is that somehow we're able to get the right people into power that will take this challenge, right on and help solve the problem in the oil and gas industry. But then it's not just the oil and gas industry. What we're saying is, as Africans, we cannot focus on just those resources or commodity. For example, we do a lot of cocoa. And I've been in meetings several in the past where the cocoa body for Nigeria will meet. They have like an organization where each state sends representative in there. And I remember sometime in, I think it must have been 2003 or 2004, I was in a meeting where, people were saying Nigeria needs to do more within that space. And somebody in the room says, oh, we have the cocoa, they need us anyway. But guess what? China is doing cocoa now. So the commodity you think you have, technology would help other people create that commodity in their own local environment. And what happens to your own commodity? Australia is trying to grow cocoa. So it means that we cannot rely on our resources and commodity for our growth. It means that we need to look for creative and innovative ways to grow our economy. And it is important that if we just skip industrialization and leapfrog into a knowledge-based economy where we have strong R&D going on in various sectors, and those R&D drives innovation for us as a nation. Hopefully, if we're able to do that, we can then sell our innovation, to the world has become a global village, to other nations who need help. And we can make life better for everyone. Next slide, please. We've talked about the fact that, for African countries, we struggle with organization and institutionalness, which simply means absence or insufficient quality and number of skilled individuals or critical mass in companies, R&D laboratories, universities, government, associations. In the UK, for example, because of the government's commitment towards net zero, all the universities in the UK are carrying out research and development towards how the UK can achieve net zero. In Nigeria, our government our president announced, Nigeria's commitment towards net zero. There is no serious R&D activity going on in all the universities in the country towards achieving that goal. So how exactly are we meant to get there? Maybe that's food for thought for all of us. Okay. Next slide, please. These are just examples of, what other people are doing. In South Africa, for example, there's a drone software company. They develop data analysis platform based on AI to help farmers optimize their activities. Another example is Ethiopian Safe Delivery. The Ethiopian Safe Delivery one is very interesting, where there's an app that coaches women to give birth outside of institutional health facility. And why would that be? Do you think in the UK, app to train people to deliver a baby would be their problem? No, it won't be, because everybody goes to the hospital. But in Ethiopia, it is a problem for them because not a lot of people have access to good healthcare system. And that's the more reason why it's important for us as Africans to ensure that we take innovation seriously within our nation and we adapt to whatever technology we get from the West. And I think on that note, I'm going to stop there and leave the floor for questions so we don't run over our time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ralph. All right, so please feel free to now. If you're, I think Ruth, if she's still on transit, you can do all to make use of the chat room and would, voice out your question on your behalf. Or maybe what we'll do is, Elizabeth, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, can you just briefly reflect on today's session? What was your most impacting moment here today that you know that this knowledge going forward, I think I'll build upon it, or what got you really into this session? Like before we do the
Um,
conventional reflection on classroom, we could just do it here.
okay. What really got me was the fact that Nigeria has a lot, or let's say Africa, sorry, Africa has a lot more to do in the R&D, and that for Africa to move as a whole, we need to focus more on research and development, and think of creative and innovative ways that can make Africa move forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I think mostly, I think a session is built to stir up some certain creatives within us. So, but just going like from the session, as we were listening to a couple of, okay, for example, he talked about we realizing that the barrels of petroleum was supposed to produce in a day were not meeting up with it. Do you feel people are not aware about it, like the statutory bodies involved?
People are actually aware that we are not doing more on the oil barrel, but as Africans, we are built to, how will I put it now? We are built to always ignore the obvious and just feel that life goes on, even despite the hard things that are happening. And so that's why we are still in this situation. Nobody is coming forward to stir up people's no, people are actually coming up to stir people's emotions, but like Nigerians have, or sorry, Africans have been built to be this, I don't know, to be able to be happy even in turbulent situations, honestly. So that's why things are very, very difficult, but still, like, we're just quiet. And then election is coming up, especially in Nigeria in 2023. And most people have not still gotten their PVC. They are all they will rig the election, so there's no need for me to vote. And so I don't know how these things can actually be solved. And I guess that's why we are in this academy, to think of ways, innovative ways to make sure that our votes count, because that's the only thing that can make life, when we have good governance, that's when everyone will be very, very happy. So
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much. Ruth, are you here with us? If you can't speak, you can just say a word in the chat room so I'll know you're on. Okay, so Dario, would you like to give us a brief reflection from today's session? What are your take homes, or going forward you feel we could implement?
Okay, so for my end, Sir Ralph made mention of the oil sector, and before now I had a discussion with a friend, and we're talking about the oil sector, and we said every year, or so our government has always made this budgets for repairing our refineries, and then we've not seen any refinery that has been repaired, and still we still wonder how an oil producing company will have to sell out its oil and buy it back as fuel and other diesel and the rest. It does not make sense. And then we're trying to see why is it so. Then we came to the conclusion that it seems the people that are major stakeholders in that sector are benefiting from it. So they see no reason why they should help those that are not benefiting, like we the masses now. Because if you realize, for some time now, the fuel price has spiked up very well. And then that has led to so many things. One thing always leads to another in Africa, in Nigeria to be specific. So you see, this whole thing about oil is now becoming out of hand. And then now we have the private sector a person that is standing out now trying to build a refinery, which is Dangote. And now you see people in the government still trying to invest in Dangote's refinery because they know they will make gain. Now I feel most people now in the government are not trying to seek for solutions, but they're seeking for means to better their own pocket. And that's the issue. Yeah. The greed of people is what's causing a lot of problems that we're having now. And even if you on your own end you want to try and like bring up ideas, there's just a way to just darken it up and make it look as if it's not possible. Yeah. So that's the issue. So trying to bring out the solution in this is just that if you can have um, people with a mind renewed, yeah. If you have people with a mind renewed that are not just in it for their own self gain, but they are in it for the good of the people around them and below them. That's the first step to bettering the society and the nation. Just having people with a renewed mindset. So that's it for me.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Araf, I think are national budgets vetted internationally? You know, like Nigeria having a budget, for example, is there a statutory body that we belong to that vets our budget or something?
So legally, there is no body, no organization that is set up to vet the nation's budget. The people who should vet your budget is the National Assembly. The only thing that can happen with the national budget is people can have opinions about the national budget. So for example, when Nigeria releases its national budget, you see sometimes the World Bank or IMF, you know, they make comments. They talk about what they think about, you know, the budget. And that's the only thing that can happen. So what that tells you is our everything lies in our own hands. Whatever we want to do, we need to fix ourselves.
All right, thank you very much, sir. So going forward, I feel the change that we all desperately desire has to begin with us. There's one thing I've learned over time is if you want to influence a community, start with an individual. So if we want our nation to be influenced, positively, to have an outlook that we want, we have to start from our various spheres. Because if you think about the ills and vices in every nation, they look bogus and you're just one person. But if you build a community around yourself, then you have more voices. Once the community has value, the voice has value, and you can stir up different communities all around, and then you have a nation. So governance starts with us as individuals, so does innovation. So in our own spheres, I think a lot of us are volunteers somewhere, a lot of us are staff somewhere. We should just start from our zone and be positive. Thank you very much. So, okay, so I don't think anyone has any more questions. And Mr. Raf, I don't know if you have like an assignment for the class or they going through that video is enough.
So I think my assignment would be I want people to look at the question we talked about today in regards to how we can handle data. I want us to properly come up with a write-up as to how to solve that problem for Nigeria. That would be the assignment. So that we can put all of this together and talk about it in more detail.
All right, sir. All right, sir. Thank you very much. All right, so this is us done. Thank you, Mr. Ra, for taking out your time to be with us this morning. Thank you also for sharing your knowledge. Indeed, there was a lot of take homes. Thank you, everyone. Ruth, Dari, Elizabeth, Precious is out now, and thank you for taking our time to be with us. Saturday may be a very busy day for a lot of people, but you made our time to be here. So do well to reflect, drop your reflections basically on the Google Classroom, and then this assignment question will be shared as well. So do have a wonderful day ahead and fruitful weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, we